Alright guys, in this video we'll take a look at writing equations of ellipses. Remember, the general form of the equation is going to be in the form x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. In order to write an equation for an ellipse, we're going to need to know three things. We're going to need to know where the center is at, the horizontal distance from the center, and the vertical distance from the center. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a look at my ellipse and find the center of that ellipse. As you can see, this is where the center is at, and that is the ordered pair 0, 0. Therefore, the center of our ellipse is 0, 0. Now I'm going to look for the horizontal distance, the distance from the center to either the left or the right of the ellipse. So notice the distance here is 3 units, therefore our horizontal distance is 3. Now I'm going to find the vertical distance from the center. From the center I have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units, so the vertical distance is 5. Once I have these three things, I can go ahead and write my equation. Since the center is at 0, 0, h and k will be replaced with 0, which simply means all I'm going to have is an x squared and a y squared. Now below the x squared, we're going to put our horizontal distance squared. Now we said the horizontal distance was 3, so if I take that 3 and square it, that now becomes a 9. I'm going to do the same thing with my vertical distance. Underneath the y squared, I need the vertical distance squared. So if I take 5 and I square it, 5 squared would be a 25. Now remember, these equations are equal to 0, so we'll go ahead and put that. And I now have my equation for this ellipse. X squared over 9 plus y squared over 25 equals 1. Alright, next ellipse we have. First thing we're going to do again is we're going to find the center of the ellipse. So here's the center, and that again is the ordered pair 0, 0. Now what we're going to do is find the horizontal distance, the distance from the center to this point over here called the vertex. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, so the horizontal distance is 6. Now we're going to find the vertical distance, the distance from the center up to this point here, and that's a distance of 2 units. Once I know the center, the horizontal distance, and the vertical distance, now I'm ready to write my equation. Since the center is at 0, 0, we'll be replacing the h and k with 0, 0, which simply means I'm going to end up with an x squared and a y squared. Now underneath the x squared, we're going to put the horizontal distance squared. So I'm going to take 6, square it. 6 squared is 36. Underneath my y squared, I'm going to take the vertical distance and square it. So if I take 2 and I square that, I end up with a 4. And all of these equations are equal to 1. Therefore, the equation for this ellipse is x squared over 36 plus y squared over 4 equals 1. Okay, next example. First thing we're going to need to do is find the center of this ellipse, and the center is located right here, and that is the ordered pair -4, +1. Now we're going to find our horizontal distance, the distance from the center to the edge of the ellipse, and that's a distance of 1 unit. Now we're going to find the vertical distance, that's the distance from the center up to the top here, and that's a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4 units. Once I know these three things, I'm ready to write my equation. Now the center is at -4, +1. But remember, in our equation it says x minus h. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the opposite of the x value. So instead of using -4, it now becomes a +4. Same thing with y minus k. Since it says minus k, we're going to use the opposite of our y value. And the opposite of a +1 would be a -1. Alright, right below the x plus 4 squared, we're going to put a squared, or the horizontal distance squared. So if I take 1 and I square it, 1 squared is 1. Same thing for my vertical distance. I'm going to take 4, square it, so 4 squared is 16. Once again, all of these equations are equal to 1. Therefore, the equation for this ellipse is x plus 4 squared over 1 plus y minus 1 squared over 16 equals 1. Now keep in mind, because of that x plus 4 squared over 1, this 1 right here is not necessary, so we could also write this as x plus 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared over 16 equals 1. So this would be an alternative way of writing the equation, and that's because the denominator is 1. Alright, let's take a look at one more example. The ellipse. First thing we're going to find is the center, and the center in this case is going to be at the ordered pair 1, 2. From here we're going to find the horizontal distance, the distance from the center to the edge of our ellipse, and that's a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. Now I'm going to find the vertical distance, the distance from the center to the top of the ellipse. That's a distance of 3. Once I have the center, the horizontal distance, and the vertical distance, I'm now ready to write my equation. But again, remember, the equation says x minus h. So we're going to use the opposite of our x value. So we're going to start off with x minus 1. Got to use the opposite. Same thing with that next one, y minus k. We're going to use the opposite of our y value. So instead of using a positive 2, we're going to use a negative 2. Underneath my x minus 1 squared, we're going to put our horizontal distance squared. We're going to take the 5, square it, which becomes a 25. We're going to do the same thing with our vertical distance. We're going to take that 3, square it, becomes a 9. And remember, these equations are always equal to 1. Therefore, this is the equation for this ellipse.